We are in a village called Minskip, which is somewhere I've never been to before. And let's just flick the switch, as they say. So this is how we're spelling it, Minskip. And if we come on in to the village sign, you will see depictions of sort of old harvest crafts, as you might say. Obviously, we can see kind of wicker baskets, we can see kind of sheaths and so forth. So stuff, and we can obviously see pretty bit of hazel rather than kind of wheat, but kind of dividers up, used for buildings, to create sort of stockyards and so forth. So consequently, it's a village that's identifying, as you might say, as a place of rural craft and rural arts. And today we're coming for Scarecrows. And I don't know if it's just me, but there's always something fascinating about Scarecrows. It's such an ordinary creation that you'd kind of think that it's kind of strange that there's much of a history to them, but actually they've got their own story, and even their own superstar, of course, in The Wizard of Oz, the kindest Scarecrow, who lacks brains but has the heart size of Kansas, but also a dark side. And by the way, today the theme is pop stars. Now, that is not my forte. I should have brought the kids with me. So I'm hoping that you guys are kind of fluent in who's who in the kind of pop charts, as you might say. I don't know. It could be rock stars, pop stars, I don't know. But you have to help me identify who these are. While we have a water, and I'm going to talk about the strange and I think interesting history of scarecrows, because never miss an opportunity to talk about the kind of cultural relevance and kind of where things sit in our culture, and also to what degree there's an Anglo culture, European culture, but also North American. Because about USA, Canadian traditions as well. But obviously, for a lot of us, we associate scarecrows with the dark side. So if this fall you're thinking about a Halloween costume, you're looking for something that's kind of classic yet unique, a scarecrow could be a great idea. Now there's dozens and dozens of these scarecrow festivals up and down the UK, across Europe, in North America. I know there's ones in Canada, in the USA. So they are very well kind of founded, and as we're going to find that their kind of roots go back a long, long way in history. And so we're in the village of Minskip. We're about 20 miles or so north of York, sort of northeast, I guess, about half an hour's kind of drive. First time I've been in this village today, so I'm seeing it for the first time as you are. Looks to be very attractive, traditional kind of what we call a linear village. So in other words, it's all kind of down one side of the road, traditional sort of farming and agriculture village. But you're going to see it as I'm going to see it. But of course what we're going to do is going to look out and have a look at the scarecrows. I don't know how many there are here, but there's quite a few. So as I say, it's pop stars. So fingers on buzzers. Let's see who we can kind of recognise. But sort of first, a kind of few things. So I'll sort of approach our first thing. A few things to know about this kind of symbol of the countryside. The term scarecrow is believed to have first appeared in the English language in the 15th century. But the first kind of known usage of the word written in a novel is actually in 1712, and it is in the book Robinson Crusoe, written, as you may know, by Daniel Defoe. So that's kind of its roots and origins. It's very, very difficult, of course, to say when a word appears in language, because for a long time it's not written down, but it's first written source that we can find, 1719, sorry. And around the UK, scarecrows have many different nicknames, depending on where you are. So tell me, those that are based in the UK, how many of these that you've heard of? A hodmedod, a hayman, a gallybagger, a tattybogle, a bwack. There's many of them. Now then, let's have a look. Have we any idea who this might be representing? As I say, I think my actual, they know, do they? Is there a quiz? Is that what's going on? So this is exposing my kind of lack of contemporary culture. It's obviously somebody that is a DJ. We've got a mixing desk here. We've got the kind of drum beat pads and so forth. So I'm guessing it's somebody that is now wearing a bucket on his head. So frankly, I'm none the wiser. But it is Scarecrow number 5. It's a DJ. Yes, Dead Mouse. A very wise person in the crowd has told us it's Dead Mouse. So everybody is kind of clearly far more knowledgeable than I am. But anybody heard of Dead Mouse? No, none of us. So obviously scarecrows were originally kind of made to do exactly what the name suggests, which is to scare off the crows and other birds that kind of might ruin the farmers' crops. Now interestingly, some farmers used scarecrows not only to deter pests, but also to attract beneficial birds to their fields. And if you've heard of this, birds such as owls, which prey on rodents that can damage crops, can be encouraged to settle nearby when scarecrows are strategically placed. So farmers might create owl-shaped scarecrows or use other methods to enhance this effect. So if there's any owls, you'll know what's about. Thank you very much. Give a wave to YouTube. You're live, North America. Thanks, guys. We love it. We didn't know who it was, but the wise folk in the audience told us. So very well done. Love it. Thank you. So in some cultures, scarecrows are kind of not merely seen as tools, but are believed to bring good luck to the harvest. So for example, in various agricultural communities, it's customary to create scarecrows as part of the harvest festivals. And that's what's kind of going on here, isn't it? With the hope that these figures will ensure bountiful yields. So such beliefs are kind of often intertwined with local folklore and traditions, showcasing how scarecrows can symbolise prosperity, protection, and a deep-rooted connection between humans and the land. And this, of course, is the origin of many of the Scarecrow festivals. So let's have a look and see if we can't work out who is represented here. Now, this is more of a reference that I'm aware of. I wasn't aware that he smoked cigars, but I think if we look at the jumpsuit, we see the McDonald's, the burgers, and we pan out a little further, and we see the decorative suit. I suspect that many of you will be able to guess who's being portrayed here. And they've done a pretty good job. It would certainly scare me away. So I'm guessing we're talking about a certain fella that died back in 1977. But the history, of course, of scarecrows and the kind of cultural impact goes back much further. So interestingly, I'd look up what the kind of world record for, I think it is obviously, isn't it, for scarecrows is. And it was set in England in 2014 in Burton-on-Trent. And at one particular scarecrow festival, there was 3,812 scarecrows, which is pretty cool. So that's a pretty good job here. As I say, they've certainly got him down. The man from Tennessee, absolutely KCM. So a local boy. You're Nashville, he's Memphis, but who's going to quibble when two such fine cities of Tennessee are represented? So this is one for you, KCM. So even though they've been around for so long, really, of course there's much more effective ways of scaring off birds than scarecrows. And in the past, there's kind of attempts were made to use kind of machinery to replace scarecrows, such as windmills. Some include, of course, hanging tins in trees or noise guns. But surprisingly, crows are kind of very adaptable, and usually they kind of realise it's a trick, and they enter the fields anyway. However, birds are kind of smarter, you might think. They quickly become familiar with these structures. However, there's more to it than that of just how a scarecrow looks, because it's the smell of humans that linger on the clothes of a scarecrow, and the belief that scarecrows might just come to life is not just limited to birds. And we humans have a history of believing it too. So we'll come to that in a minute. Here we are now, and I do know this one. This is more in my genre. So in his chubby years, it was definitely a kind of Vegas scarecrow, that wasn't it, Polly? So, a beautiful garden, lovely traditional English village cottage, by the way, just setting them up. And another American actor, and again, I'm guessing that KCM will be all the way across knowing who this is. And Sandy as well, the white stripes, I think it most definitely is, isn't it? So I suspect, when we're using this word pop stars, we get a pretty wide point of reference. But again, as I say, the fact that I'm sure that these folk have put kind of clean clothes on them, on these, they look very, very clean indeed. But in years gone by, had they just been old discarded clothes, the fact that they carry the scent of people, and that these birds would have probably had negative experiences of people in the past, trying to scare them away, throwing stones at them, whatever it may be, is enough of that kind of residual memory to create a sort of sense of fear. So scarecrows didn't just work simply on a visual level, but a sensory level for the birds as well. So mine, it's a band called the White Stripes. Jack White is still a big kind of performer then, rather today. He performed with his Is it his sister? Is it his wife? We never really kind of quite got to the bottom of it, I don't believe. Called Meg, who was a drummer, and they were kind of two-piece, very kind of elemental. Seven Nation Armies, they're kind of most famous here. Dig that out on kind of YouTube. It's got a kind of primeval kind of riff that you sort of can't believe what didn't exist, but they wrote it. So Jack and Meg, the White Stripes, great band. Obviously sort of fairly limited, so once you've heard one album, you kind of heard it all a little bit, but put that to one side. It's a very good kind of rendering, so there we go. So there we go, so a nice veg patch there. So let's see, is it working? Well, it doesn't appear to be scaring the butterflies, does it, when we look at the cabbage leaves, but I think that's great. I love those. So Scarecrows have also found their way into popular culture, haven't they, if you think about it, inspiring iconic characters in literature and in film. The author Nathaniel Hawthorne wrote a notable short story called Feathertop about a scarecrow brought to life by a witch. And this was used for a play written in 1908 by a chap called Percy Mackay, which ended up going on Broadway. So a big hit based on a scarecrow in life. Both DC and Marvel, by the way, both comic characters, also a manga anime character. There's a scarecrow. Completely different characters in both Marvel and DC, but they're both villains, interestingly. So we're going to come to that in a minute. Scarecrows have also made their impact in music. There's a Pink Floyd song on the first album called The Scarecrow. And as we're on music, let us have a look at this chap and see if you can decide who you think that this is. So we've got the fairly mad blonde mob. Hello, Poppy from Toronto. And what else have we got? We've got a neck scarf. We've got a kind of long, bit mullety haircut. I think, Rosemary, I think your instinct is right. And I think as we go down and we see the leopard skin trousers, it does indeed. In fact, here's a clue really for us, because over here we've got the question, do you think I'm sexy? Rather than mod indeed. So is he indeed sexy? I suppose the question is, are we talking about Rod Stewart or the Scarecrow? Or in fact, does the Scarecrow now look better than Rod Stewart given his dotage? That's maybe a cruel question, but it's a pretty good attempt there. I'm kind of into Rod. He appears to have rickets. I don't know if Rod didn't get his vitamins when he was a kid, but oh, we lost him. Did you say? Let's just hopefully, if I have a little think of words or Can you just tell me, am I frozen? Fine here. Okay, let's walk on a little bit, and hopefully the freeze. Tonight's the night. Great song. Yeah, so I think Poppy is still with us. So let's kind of walk on. So I suppose the most notable. Can others see and hear me? Can you just give me a sense of... It's okay for you, okay. So I suppose the most sort of notable example in our culture is Scarecrow from Frank L. Baum's The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, which of course became the quite fabulous film in 1939, starring Judy Garland. And he's portrayed as a kind of character in search of intelligence, is Scarecrow in that film. And this portrayal kind of reflects deeper themes of identity and self-worth, allowing scarecrows to kind of transcend their utilitarian origins and kind of become symbols of hope and aspiration. So kind of such representations highlighting the kind of enduring impact. So I can see a flag here and some bunting, but I can't as yet see... Well, there's another one up there. So it kind of represents the impact of scarecrows on storytelling, their ability to resonate with audiences kind of across generations. So I did say thank you, Natalie. I did say we'd kind of go back to the origins. And scarecrows have been around a lot longer than you'd probably think. So scarecrows have been around, or rather the first recordings that we have of them is in ancient Egypt, about 3,000 years ago, making them one of the kind of oldest agricultural tools known to humanity. So let's have a look at who we think that this may be. So they're kind of first made by Egyptians to protect their wheat fields, especially along the Nile River. And ancient Egyptians kind of recognised the threat posed by birds and other animals to their crops and devised kind of simple yet effective methods to deter them. So these early scarecrows were often kind of rudimentary, sort of consisting of sticks or branches arranged to resemble human figures strategically placed among fields to mimic the presence of humans and scare away birds and other potential threats. So we'll come back to that in a second. Have we any kind of sense of who we think that this might be? Obviously, it is, I think, a black female singer. I'm not sure who this is. So does anybody know we've got a leopard skin kind of tights, we've got a kind of tiger skin top, we've got kind of afro up here, but I'm not entirely sure who this is. So anybody that's able to kind of fill me in there, that would be kind of fantastic. So in ancient Egypt, I've got to admit that that's not one that I can name. Maybe Nicki Minaj, could it be? I'm not entirely sure. No, I'm not sure on this one. So in ancient Egypt, scarecrows were created from papyrus reeds and wooden sticks, and farmers would create these figures to protect their wheat fields from scavenging birds, especially during the harvest. And the Egyptians would adorn their scarecrows with bright colours, like this one, sometimes even use them as a means of religious expression. And this practice was not only showcased the ingenuity of ancient agricultural methods, but also reflects the deep connection between farming and culture in Egyptian society. Now, the next one coming up, I know who this is. Now, in ancient Greece, Shirley Bassey, I suppose it could be Tina Turner. Yeah, they're kind of the Diana Ross aunt. Yeah, I think that's Whitney Houston. Could be any of them. I mean, I think they're all kind of very valid guesses. I'm thinking maybe Anne might be on it with Diana Ross. He's definitely got... Shall we look at it one more time and see what we think? So, we've had suggestions for Tina Turner, Diana Ross, Whitney Houston. Grace Jones uses shorter hair, Sarah, so I'm thinking probably not Grace Jones. So let's have a look one more time. So we're thinking you can either vote for Tina Turner, Diana Ross, or Whitney Houston. I think I am probably in the Tina Turner or Diana Ross camp, and I'm gonna say Diana Ross. But I mean, you know, it could be anybody, but well done, whoever it is. We'll no doubt find out. So we talk about ancient Greece, another source. Farmers would fashion their scarecrows like Priapus. Now, do we know about Priapus? Make sure there's no children around when we talk about Priapus. He was the son of Dionysus and Aphrodite. And here's suitable. So our next figure would be familiar with Dionysus and Aphrodite. So in Greek mythology, Priapus is a minor rustic fertility god, protector of livestock, fruit, plants, gardens, and male genitalia. And this is kind of marked by his permanent oversized erection, which gave rise to the medical term Priapism. And you have to look that one up yourself. I'm not going to describe it what it is. But Priapus was, according to some sources, the son of Aphrodite by Zeus. And the legend was that Hera cursed him with an inconvenient impotence, so he couldn't actually sustain himself during the act when it came time for intercourse. He was also very ugly and foul-minded, and this is all while he was in kind of Aphrodite's womb. So Hera's anger and curse were because the baby had been fathered by her husband Zeus. Now Zeus got around a bit, it's fair to say. So I think we can all agree on who we're looking at today. It is indeed David, and they've done a fantastic job. Let's just kind of pan back so we can have a look at David in all his scarecrow pomp. He's good, he's doing good, isn't he, Marlena? My guy, loving that. It's fabulous, isn't he? They've done a really good job. If there's a prize so far, I think David Bowie is, for me, definitely in the lead. And they've really kind of got his early 70s kind of mullet down there. I think they've done a fabulous job. Loving that, loving that. So yeah, Zeus was kind of well known for playing away. Often turned himself into a bull and had it away with many and made him. So because he was this kind of outcast, the other Greeks wouldn't allow Priapus to live up on Mount Olympus with them. So he was kind of hurled out into the world, and eventually he was rescued by some shepherds. And the myth was that Priapus lived near the wine vineyards, and he was supposedly very, very ugly. So whenever Priapus played the vineyards, he scared the birds away and improved the harvest. So thereafter, farmers began to fashion scarecrows to resemble Priapus, and these were particularly effective as the scarecrows not only scared off the birds, but that the pole that entered the ground represented Priapus. And I'm not going to talk because there's children behind me. What I will do is I'll try and find a picture of Priapus, and you'll kind of get the... let me try and bring that across. I'm sure you'll kind of get the point. So that's how Priapus is portrayed in mythology. So if you can imagine that the pole sticking into the ground has representation, and it was believed that every time a maiden would pass by the fields, Priapus would fertilise them. So we'll not dwell on that, but I'm sure you get the reference that I'm talking about. So if you haven't seen Priapus, now you know what he's famous for. And as well, a bit like King Midas, sounds good, everything you touch turns to gold. Of course, turns out to be a curse. So it wasn't actually much use to him in the grand scheme of things. But that's Hera. She fashioned her revenge on him because he was the love child, of course, of Zeus and Aphrodite. So what are we saying there? Marlena grew up with the film? Yeah, exactly. I think the less said about Priapus, the better. But he's an interesting story. And so, of course, as you imagine, by having scarecrows dressed as him, they would scare all sorts of people, I think, and not just the birds, or maybe not just the animal birds, as you might say. Anyway, a lovely house. Look at that. So let's not do our popular parties. So Japanese culture. Oh, we do like to cover the globe with this. So I think there's some more. There's definitely some more on the other side. So we'll walk back if we kind of. But it looks like there's some more down here. So in Japan, and I mentioned there is a manga figure called Kakashi, which means Scarecrow. Very, very popular right now. Look him up. If you're into manga anime, you'll know about Kakashi. So in Japan, many traditions of the ancients continue to this day. The origins of the Scarecrow go back to ancient times. Involving rituals and kind of agricultural traditions, these scarecrows are more than just tough figures. They had a deeper meaning. Now we'll come to that meaning in just a minute, but the sign kind of gives it away. But if I sort of cut away from that, he wants to have a little punt on who it is. We've definitely got a more sort of traditional scarecrow figure here, insofar as we can see the flesh, the straw exposed. We've got I think the big and a good sign. We've got a corsets down here. We've got safety pins and beads. We've got bangles. We've got fishnets. And we've got stilettos. So are we going to have a little punt on who it is that we're looking at? Who this girl is? I think everyone's on this. Of course, the sign, of course, says down here, is Madge, the material girl. So indeed, it is Madonna being portrayed. Yeah, it's fabulous, isn't it? I love it. Very sort of like a virgin time, isn't it? That sort of very. I think she'd be fine. I think she'd be quite pleased. I'd be quite pleased with that. It's not a bad rendering, is it? And she's tall as well. I mean, she's about as tall as me. So I wasn't aware that she was of that kind of stature. But I think that's pretty cool. I think for me, I would say that's up there with David Bowie. I think that's definitely a leading contender for me. And she's got look at very, very slim legs. I think you're pretty topple over in them. But there we go. That's Madge, the material girl, as a scarecrow. So we were talking about Japanese, weren't we? And do you know the oldest surviving Japanese book, which was written in the year 712, there's a scarecrow referred to as Kubiko, who's a deity that cannot walk but knows everything about the world. So Japanese scarecrows, known as Kakashi, often take on more than just a kind of protective role. They're also imbued with a cultural significance. And traditionally, these scarecrows are dressed in outfits resembling local farmers. So I dare say the farmers wouldn't dress in garb like this. So let's kind of walk on. So completely kind of rice straw hats and colourful clothing. And the portrayal serves to connect the scarecrow with the community, representing the labour and dedication of farmers. And in some regions, Kakashi are even adorned with seasonal decorations to reflect local festivals, showcasing not only their utility, but also their artistic value. Now, there's a bit of a kind of giveaway really here, insofar as we've got a mask of pink. So I don't think it's particularly difficult to guess who's been kind of portrayed here. But again, pretty well done. We've got very long legs. It does seem to be a thing today, doesn't it? Who's it had the great long legs? Was it Rita Hayworth in Hollywood? So they all kind of Rita Hayworth-esque legs that go on forever. Rather narrow across the hips and the waists. And quite limmy, it has to be said. But Scarecrow number 90, I do think is pretty good fun. And again, she's got lots of glitter going on. So I think pink is well represented. Would we have guessed it without the mask? Well, I think we probably would have done, because of course, just flick behind, And of course, that distinctive shock of pink hair, I suspect would have kind of given it away, but they've rather helped us out, haven't they, with the portrayal. So I think we like Pink. You don't know Natalie? Or she's Pink. Her name's Pink. And she's Canadian, I think. Canadian, isn't she? Rather American. Yeah, I think so. I think she's Canadian. Correct me if I'm wrong. Been around for probably 25 years. And my mind's gone blank in terms of hits. But go on kind of YouTube, whatever, and hit Pink, and you'll see, you know, a whole bunch of tracks. Been popular for a long time. And a very powerful kind of voice. So we've got Japanese, won't we? So in other regions, Japanese farmers have also used scarecrows in the past, but they would hang old rags, meat, and fish bones on the creations. So the smell enough was not enough to keep away the birds, but all creatures away from their kind of crops. A Japanese village called Nagoro, which has 35 inhabitants, with scarecrows, making it the scarecrow capital of the world. So here we are, another one, and again, the face mask gives us a rather instant kind of clue who it is that we're looking at. Girl power music. So is she from Canada? Yeah. Oh, she's American. I do apologise. But I think even without the face mask, I think the fact that we've got the famous pink hanky, the braces, the white, not the sweaty shirt, or sweaty here, and unlike Pink and Madonna, he is a rather small chap, by comparison, I think, to the late Marvin Day, his name was, wasn't he? And in fact, again, we've got here Meatloaf Like a Bat of Hell. But again, it's good fun rendering, isn't it? And, you know, if you're going to make a scarecrow, why not make a sort of hunchback miniature version of Meatloaf? It's all valid, you know, it all counts. I'm not sure I'll quite put it in the same category as some of the ones that we've seen, but it's definitely a good offer. And do let me know if Meatloaf rocks your world. Obviously, we've had a fair representation of musical genres and styles so far, so hopefully we've already found somebody that we like. Definitely Meatloaf, yeah, I think so too. So, let's talk about Japan, talk about ancient Greece. Let me just get a drink, and then we're going to talk about Europe, European kind of cultural resonance. What time are we? Because I haven't got a watch on today. We're on half an hour, so we're halfway through. That's marvellous. We're doing good. So hope you're enjoying yourself. Do give me a thumbs up if you're enjoying it. Give me a like and a follow if you're not already subscribed to the channel. And if you're able to contribute as well, that will just make my day peachy. Oh, there he is. He's rocking in. The lady's leaning to take a photograph, and there he is. He lurched towards them. So like all scarecrows, a little bit creepy. Paradise by the Dashboard Light, wedding song. Well, it's a strange, bittersweet kind of song. Anyway, so in medieval England and across Europe, there was an actual job for young boys called a bird scarer, working as a living, scarecrows really, and they would clap blocks of wood together to keep the birds away. But they also carried bags of small stones to throw at any birds that had promoted to land on the fields. Now, tragically, the Great Bubonic Plague of the 14th century had a devastating impact on the farming communities, and there are many locations where there was no children left that could be spared to mind the fields. So they were replaced by stuffed human-like figures. But of course, these stuffed figures inevitably represented the children that had died of the plague. And that's where things start to get a little bit creepy. So we'll hold the thoughts. If anybody have thought of scarecrows as being a bit creepy, then this next section is for you, because we're going to talk about the dark side. So I'm going to try to film these guys, but let's just come in on the... we've got a piano, we've got a guy, we've got glasses, we've got some feather armpits, we've got a white jacket. I think we can all see, if I come around this side, so I can just get the face of our scarecrow. Hi everybody. I think we're probably all guess Franz on it. It's Elton John, of course it is. Hi everybody. You're live on YouTube. How's it going? Live on YouTube. Is this the last one, or is there any more? There's one more, then it's back that way, yeah? Thank you. So yeah, Elton John. So, has anyone heard of the German Boomen? So German farmers used to make kind of wooden witches in their fields because they believed that witches would draw the evil spirit of winter in their bodies, kind of in common with the white Vikings. And Christian to a degree of belief that kind of winter represented death, nothing grew, and evil spirits stalked the earth, so you needed these scarecrows to protect you. But in Germany, they also had the Boomen. And this scarecrow wasn't just for keeping away crows. It also kept away evil spirits. So the Boomen, spelled B-U-H-M-A-N-N, often wore a grotesque mask, meant to terrify anything, human or otherwise, that dared to come near. People believed that at the end of the harvest, you had to leave them an offering, maybe some grain or a small doll. And there's a kind of clear parallel here to the corn dolls made to this day, symbolising gratitude for the harvest and hopes for future prosperity. But these gifts to the Boomen were made in fear rather than gratitude. If you didn't, the Boomen might turn on you and your family during those long winter nights. It was like a scarecrow that had a life of its own, demanding respect. So, we've got a guitar. We've got blonde locks. Again, we've got I thought that was, I couldn't think of his name, so thank you for coming in on that one. Oh, we've got Sam Ryder behind me. Sam Ryder, Eurovision 2022. So I think that was the year, wasn't he, where he was all on course to win, wasn't he? And then, of course, the Ukraine Act came on, and because all that was kind of kicking off, everyone voted for Ukraine. But he did very, very well. He's the only one in recent times, isn't he, that's nearly won Eurovision. For us, no null point for Sam. He did very, very well. So I guess rather small guitar for a large one. But I think he looks pretty good, don't you? So Marley is a chap called Sam Ryder, and he represented the UK in the Eurovision Song Contest in 2022. I didn't know that because it's so there. And Spaceman apparently was the number that he sang. So he's a very kind of affable chap, and no doubt, you know, we'll have a fairly long career. People know who he is. So right, I think we need to now cross over and go back down the other side. I don't know how many there are on the other side. Down here, oh, so there's down here. Okay, apparently there's some more down here. I know that there's definitely some down there because I saw them. So let's talk about this idea of sort of dark stories. So in Eastern Europe, scarecrows are even creepier. In Romania and Poland, they mark the line between the human world and the supernatural. The Romanian, I don't know how you pronounce it, but I'm going to try. Spiritore was believed to hold the spirits of ancestors. And these scarecrows were dressed in old clothes belonging to dead family members. And it's said that at night their heads would turn to watch anybody walking by. Have we still got some more to go?
There's three up there.
Thank you.
There's Miley Cyrus and...
Thank you. So he said at night their heads would turn to watch anybody walking by, which is really rather creepy, isn't it, when you think about it? And their arms might twitch as you think, would you come closer? And if their clothes were left on the spirits on too long, the spirits might get attached. They become possessive of the fields and anyone who dared to enter. So really kind of rather sinister. So I'm just going to, I'm not on a path at the minute, so I'm just going to get us back somewhere safe. And so very pagan. I mean, the history, Marlene, you know, it's very much kind of stitched into, you know, kind of pagan worship of fertility, of the gods, the earth, more kind of primal pagan religions that tend to focus on the primary elements of things that keep us alive. So in Europe, scarecrows are often more than just straw and rags. In parts of Eastern Europe, they were tied to ritual magic. People believed they were filled with protective spells to keep the crop safe. But these spells came with risks. There's stories of scarecrows inhabited by restless spirits who died tragically. These scarecrows, the safety dance. Do you remember this song? I thought that this was going to be Men at Work, as in the Aussie band, but it's obviously to do with the Men Without Hats. That's right, isn't it? They were the band. In the mid-80s. Can you hear it? Remember this? I don't remember the video, but I would guess Men at Work, but obviously not, so. Safety officer. Yeah. Well, the song is definitely a band called Men Without Hats. So, if you're not familiar with it, I'll just come a little bit closer and you can hear the music. So I'm guessing it must, you know, refer to that band. But anyway, whether or not, it reminded me of Men at Work. We're talking about creeps of what? Oh yeah, so in Romania, I can't remember the call, but it translates in English as cursed guardians. And these scarecrows would come to life at night. They patrol the fields, punishing anyone who disrespected the land. And one eerie tale from Poland is about a scarecrow named the Burning Man. And he was made from the ashes of a man who'd been accused of witchcraft who died in a fire. The ashes were mixed with straw and stuffed into a scarecrow. And on certain nights, the Burning Man would ignite. So I think we now need to cross over. I think this is the last kind of one. And kind of flames would dance around his body, the Burning Man, as he moved through the fields. And farmers believed that if he caught you, you'd be cursed to wander the fields forever, your spirit trapped with his in an endless fire. So it's amazing, really, just how many cultures, how many countries have traditional stories that see scarecrows as having a link to the other life, the other world, that far from just being a kind of stuffed figurine, they're scared birds, there's a deeper symbolic meaning. It was a Canadian band, I didn't know that, thank you. So, here we go. So we've now got a pink Stetson, we've got long blonde hair, we've got a guitar, we've got, I think what you guys call a buckskin jacket with tassels, we've got spangly boots, we've got a pretty short denim skirt, and we've got a rather noticeable chest, and as if we didn't know already, peeking out from behind the wig is, of course, it's Dolly Parton, isn't it? This is Dolly Parton. It's like Dolly, yeah. I suddenly thought, is it Dolly Parton? I'm about to say it's Dolly Parton. But it is Dolly Parton, isn't it? So there we go. That's a rather good one, I think. I think, that's definitely... Oh, if we just move back as well, we've got the Stars and Stripes in the window. So all good music comes from Canada. There's some very good Canadian acts, of course. Natalie, Neil Young, Joni Mitchell, amongst them, people I like. Rush, of course. Do let me know some other Canadian acts that I've probably missed. But those three are certainly people I have in my recollection. Keep going, should you? So, my own heritage is up part of an island in Samhain. So, of course, that's the what we call the pagan, kind of roots of Halloween. Scarecrows are linked. The kind of time of year when the veil between the worlds, between this world and the next, is the kind of thinnest. This belief that spirits could move from side to side. If you remember, a time that spirits walked the earth and could capture the undead, so people would wear Halloween costumes, so people would think that they were spirits and zombies, and they'd be safe. So, we've got saying press me. Oh, I wasn't expecting that. Oh, now this is definitely. Oh. So do we know who's singing? Who is on the swing? We've got a clue. She's called Miley Silage, which is a little bit cruel. Silage, of course, is kind of waste product of the harvest. But wow, Miley Cyrus, of course, KTM. But look at this, the effort that's gone into this. So it's a wrecking ball, now a wrecking bale, not wrecking ball, it's a wrecking bale. What an art form that is. That's a feat of engineering as well as a scarecrow. So I think we're going to have to immediately elevate that to the lead, just for the sheer ambition. Again, let's just, oh, look at that. Isn't that fabulous? So I don't think I've ever seen ambition on that scale, really, when it comes to scarecrows. I think it'd scare a lot of things away, wouldn't it, really? So, so I was talking about, talking about Ireland, wasn't I? So yeah, you kind of sound this idea that you've got this kind of period where, also at Midsummer as well, where there's this ability to move from one world to the next. And this belief that spirits could hide inside scarecrows, taking over their forms for a short time. And the scarecrows wear a mix of old family clothes and new garments to trick the spirits into thinking they were still alive. So, whereas the Halloween costumes were dressing up like demons to make them think that you were dead. By contrast, this was making them think you were alive. So it's the exact opposite of that. So during Samhain, people claim to see the scarecrows shift slightly as if they were listening to the wind. And children were warned to stay away. If a spirit thought they were a scarecrow too, it might take them away forever. So these wonderful kind of folk tales like Hansel and Gretel always involve child abduction somewhere along the line, don't they? But the scariest thing ever for a little kid is being taken away from your mum and dad forever, or your grandma and granddad, or whoever it is you're with. But it's a horrible, nasty thought, isn't it? So there we go. So a sip of water, and we'll carry on with similar dark tales of the Scarecrows. Hope you're enjoying this. We're at the Minskip Festival, just outside York, about 20 miles or so outside York, near a place called Burbridge, Roman fortress town, river crossing, Burbridge, out near the A1, the old Roman road, and thoroughly enjoying this lovely weather. First time in the village. It's very picturesque village, very linear, so it's kind of working on one side, walking back the other side now, and we'll see what we can see. So, suitably refreshed. I'm really impressed with Miley Cyrus. That was, or Miley Cyrus, as she was rather cruelly turned. So let's cross the Atlantic Ocean. Let's talk about USA and Canada. So across the United States, numerous Scarecrow festivals are held each year. Let me know if you've been to a Scarecrow festival in America. Each year celebrating kind of creativity and craftsmanship of the Scarecrow making. And these events just going to draw visitors from far and wide. There's contests, there's parades, workshops. If you look in the chat, you should see some links to the tipping. I should have a comment at the top there about Buy Humphrey a Treat. I can't bring myself to change the name of it, so apologies that's no longer correct, but it takes you to the same place. So contest parades, workshops, kind of showcasing a lot of kind of unique designs, but also the kind of crafts and skills, engaging local artists and schools and so forth, and creating sort of scarecrows to foster a community involvement and artistic expression. So they not only kind of promote old agricultural sort of cultural awareness, but also American folklore and kind of natural sort of skills and so forth. But in the USA and in Canada, scarecrows also have their own set of dark stories. They're often tied to the fear of messing with dark forces. Think how many horror films, many of them not too good at, as we said, feature scarecrows. So one famous tale about the Harvest Man. A farmer desperate after years of bad crops used a ritual involving blood and soil from his ancestors to bring his scarecrow to life. And at first, it worked. The scarecrow scared off thieves and crows alike. But as time went on, the scarecrow grew twisted, and it began to turn on anyone who came near, even the farmer's family. Now, in some version of the story, the scarecrow's actions are a reflection of the farmer's own greed. People said they saw the harvest man dragging trespassers into the corn. Their screams were swallowed by the rustling stalks. And later, when townspeople looked at the scarecrow, they could see the faces in the burlap. Faces that looked like the missing people. So during harvest festivals, folk reported seeing unfamiliar expressions on the faces of scarecrows, as if the missing had become part of them. So it looks like, now then, thank you, Sandy, that we talked about Tina. If that was Tina previously, then here she is almost certainly again. We've got Simply the Best. I think it's pretty obvious who's being portrayed here. And again, they've done an extraordinarily good job. There we go, we've got the hair. We've got, again, rather long arms. This seems to be a feature today, is long arms. I wonder if it's the sort of the second day. Is gravity having its impact? And we've got Simply the Best at the bottom of them. So do let me know if you're feeling you might have seen any of the Scarecrows twitch at all today, as if they are inhabited at all by those that have come before, because as I say, many believe that. There's another legend in the Midwest. You may have come across this. Do let me know if you're familiar with this story, called the cornfield sentinel. And this scarecrow moved only when the moon was a crescent. And travellers said they saw it on the edge of fields at night, its head turned to watch the road. And if you looked at it for too long, it would step down from its post. It would shuffle towards you, silent and relentless. And the sentinel was thought to guard against something worse, something deep in the corn. People who vanished near these fields were said to be taken by whatever the sentinel was trying to keep contained, something that even it couldn't control. So again, I think Tina Reddux, yeah. Those of us on this side of the Atlantic will almost certainly know immediately who's being portrayed here. The ginger hair, the iconic Union Jack dress, and Tina's the favourite of Sarah's. That's very good. We've got Ginger Spice, haven't we? Jerry Halliwell being portrayed here many years ago. Now it was about 1996, I think, somewhere around that time. But never kind of forgotten. She appeared at the Brit Awards, which is kind of like a Grammys, but in the UK, for those that aren't aware of the Brits. And she appeared in a much, much shorter skirt, it has to be said, dressed than this. And it's fair to say she grabbed the front pages and the headlines the next day. I think upstaged the band. It wasn't long after that. There's no more about Spice Girls, we'll say. But it seemed like a matter of weeks or months she'd left to go solo. Now, still her career didn't really go many places, but I think it was fair to say she used it as an opportunity to kind of to announce off. And it was at the time of that kind of Cool Britannia thing of kind of Oasis and that kind of late 90s. So about 96, 97 around then, I'm thinking. But yeah, Jerry Halliwell certainly caught the media's attention with that dress, and she was in a Ginger Spice. In case you're unaware, the Spice Girls were a kind of girl group, a 5-piece pop band, and they all had a name, something Spice. So Scary Spice and so forth. Now again, for fans now more of the darkness, like these stories we've been talking about, suitably, the much loved, and now sadly missed, I'll let you say who it is, but I'll be amazed if anybody is unable to, as he's been in the media so much of late, much talked about, mourned and missed, and practically not quite a state funeral in this country, but he's certainly had taken the unlikely path to be national treasure in his late years. I suspect a lot of that was probably to do with the TV series, which portrays an amiable, sort of bumbling fool, but above all, probably a family man. I think that's what really kind of captured in the TV show was the fact that he was a guy that was devoted to his kids. A bit hapless, a bit all over the place. But of course, get him on a stage, put a mic in his hand, and he was transformed into the Prince of Darkness. But I think that's probably what actually, and probably for Sharon really, also doing the Pop Idol shows and all that sort of stuff. Birmingham Lad, absolutely. So Ozzy Osbourne. So I like Ozzy. I think he's great. And he's gone. But so many of that generation, of course, aren't they? Those from the 60s and 70s that dominated the music scene. All getting old. We all are, I suppose. Let's walk on. So this idea of kind of dark, sinister scarecrows turning to life, pretty common theme. And it's an idea that something meant to protect us can turn to threat. And in many of these kind of tales of dark magic, arrests the spirit or even the malice of the creator that brings the scarecrow to life. There's a story from Germany about Der Fluchtwächter, I believe it's called, the curse warden. A farmer made to protect his land from thieves. He used a dark magic to put wronged spirit inside. And the scarecrow did its job, but each year it got more violent. It started attacking anyone who worked in the field. And one morning they found the farmer was dead, twisted among the corn. The scarecrow stood over him, his empty eyes simply watching. In Scotland there's a story about the straw laird. A miserly landlord built it to guard his barley fields. It was made from animal bones, bound with wire and stuffed with barley straw. At night it whispered the names of those who had wronged the landlord. The whispers grew louder over time, and soon those whose names it spoke started, one by one, to vanish. Villagers found them later, their bodies tangled in straw, their mouths filled. Laird remained. It was said that anyone who tried to remove it would be cursed, becoming the next guardian of the field. So I'm looking out, I don't think we're missing any, but I'm just scanning the horizon as we're kind of walking on. So these kind of tales sort of show the duality of scarecrows. They can protect us, but also become threats. And often their kind of sinister transformation comes from misuse of magic or disrespecting natural forces. The guardian, the scarecrow, once a guardian, becomes a symbol of revenge. It embodies the fears and guilt of those who made it. It's a reminder that even our creations can turn on us when we push too far. So I can just see one over there. That's unusual, isn't it? It's not a scarecrow, but it reminds me of the figure from Led Zeppelin 4, the guy with the torch. You've seen the film Samhain's the same, but it's like that as Jimmy Page is coming up the mountain. Anyway, I digress. So we'll just have a look at the last couple of scarecrows. So scarecrows are kind of strange. They're powerful symbols. They stand somewhere between safety and danger, between protection and menace. They are made to guide the harvest, but these darker stories show how easily that role can change. Curses, restless spirits, human desperation. All these things can twist a scarecrow into something terrifying. Let's just pause here for a second and see who we think this might be. So, we've got blue jeans, a red waistcoat, shock of dark hair, a microphone. We've got a band, the Wooden Tops, but I'm going to say I'm not entirely sure who this is. Morrissey, perhaps? Oh, yeah, definitely Morrissey. Look, we've got the Gladiolo up here. So yes, a swinging Gladiolo. You're on top of the pops? Yeah. So we've got Morrissey. I thought it might be, but it wasn't obvious. Not a lot of obvious references. It's definitely in the know there. So for those that know Morrissey, Gladioli, he was on top of the pops. What difference did it make? I think back in about 1984, and he swung around Gladioli, which is a kind of iconic moment on top of the pops. So that's kind of what that comes from. So we'll kind of move on. So yeah, I think it's fascinating, this idea of scarecrows being both a protector and a menace. You know, that they are made to kind of guard the harvest, the thing that we create when we work with the earth. But so many of these stories then associate with greed, how they can then turn on us when we stop working with the earth and try and work for ourselves. We try and gather too much from the harvest. This is where the kind of menace seems to creep in. So curses, restless spirits, human desperation, all these things can twist a scarecrow into something truly terrifying. Oh! So again, to get this, you'd have to know the band, rather the video. So I'm just going to pull across, and hopefully you pick up the music first. So if you know the record, that should give you a huge clue, because obviously the band appear in drag in that video. So do let me know the first one to spot it. Queen, of course it is, And so I Want to Break Free. And if you've not seen it, it's a very funny video. And where Freddie Mercury, with his bad wig, and of course his big moustache, plays a housewife. And Roger Taylor makes a scarily effective schoolgirl, as you see it over there. And so there we go. So kind of Queen being portrayed. Your Holiday Home. Ah, fantastic, of course it is. So that's pretty good. That's your 4 scarecrows. I think actually the John Deacon character there, who sat down. If you remember, sort of looking very like an old lady. They're doing a pretty good job there. And Brian May with his hair in curlers there. So Freddie, he's rather hiding his light under a bushel. His fringe is blown across his face there. Roger, pretty good actually. They've captured that very, very well indeed. Yep, I think pop has been used pretty broad now. I think we're going to say that these are music formers. So I think there's one more to see, and suitably, it's an impressive one. So yeah, this idea that they can sort of come back to haunt us shows how easily that this kind of role can change. So curses, kind of restless spirits, human desperation can all twist a scarecrow into something that is terrifying. They remind us what we can create somehow can come back, sometimes, will come back to haunt us. Now then, who have we got here? Ah, are we swimming in the same ocean? I rather believe that we are. So I think this, either these neighbours don't talk, or it's a deliberate echo, but it's the same song, it's the same video, but this time we've just got Freddy, and I'm just going to come around this side so you can see him. It is a very good representation, and you also get the fact that he's rather well stacked up top, as he was in the video there. So figuratively, that's probably a bit of a better job. So it's just perhaps a shame they're next door to each other. One end of the village to the other, you won't have noticed. But so I think we've got one more or a couple more to have a look at. That's right, yeah. Each over here, and I think this is probably the best of the lot. So we've talked about how things can twist a scarecrow. And they remind us of what we can create sometimes comes back to haunt us. A scarecrow might just be straw and cloth, but under the right conditions it can become something far worse. It's a guardian, it's a warning. A figure standing alone in the fields, watching and waiting, and reminding us not to meddle with things that are best left alone. So here we are at our final sculpture. I do hope you've enjoyed today's tour. Give me a like. Give me a subscribe if you're able to leave a tip. That would be absolutely fantastic. I saw this early on, didn't want to kind of say anything, but I think it is absolutely epic. So we've got something playing. I think the sheer ambition has kind of blown me away, really, of this festival here in Minskip. It is utterly remarkable. People haven't simply chucked something together, they've really thought about it. They've kind of put a lot of time, artistry, craft, applied their traditional kind of country techniques, and it's blown me away. I think it's been absolutely brilliant. We're actually crossing, of course, the famous zebra crossing. Here we are at Abbey Road, Northwest 8. North London, near where I used to work at Lord's, around the corner. So there we go, the 4 Beatles on Abbey Road. And that concludes our tour today. It is really cool, isn't it? Let's just give you another little spin round. Yes, it is it's a fundraiser for St John's Church, I believe, the church in the village. So Paul barefoot, yes, Paul is barefoot, which of course led to beliefs in some that Paul died the year before, some kind of conspiracy theory. George at the back. But isn't that something? Really well constructed as well. You know, there's quite a lot of wind here today, and it's barely moving around at all. So there we go. Thank you ever so much for joining me here in Minskip. I need to be on my way back to York. Been an absolute pleasure. As I say, apologies that I haven't really been doing much of late, but sometimes you just need a bit of a break from these things, and you can come back refreshed, like a band taking time out for the next album. So Beatles having a bit of a long time out since their last album. But is it a yearly event? Natalie, I believe that it is. So perhaps we'll look to come back next year. So in the meantime, thank you everybody who's joined me live, particularly those who are the other side of the Atlantic. I know it's been a very early start for you, but I've enjoyed it. I hope that you have too. And I look forward to seeing you all very, very soon. So thank you everybody. Thank you, Therese. Good to see you everybody. Bye-bye now.